to keep, good, they don't feel compelled to keep the driver happy.
Interesting.
They're
Okay.
compelled to keep the insurance company happy.
Mhm.
So it's a different mindset. It can work out extremely well, but they're also going to be working very hard to get insurance replacement business, dealer replacement business, body shop replacement business, because that's what they do.
Mhm.
You get me?
Yep.
They don't understand referral.
Right.
Okay, because very few people would refer anybody to Enterprise.
Right.
All right. So just understand that and everything will work out fine.
Okay.
Let's talk about new or used. We've already talked about that. In the airports, they always provided new cars. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. And there was a couple of reasons for that. Number one, the factories were pushing new cars on us because Ford wanted all the Hertz customers to drive Fords. And Chrysler wanted all of Thrifty to drive Chryslers, and they were giving us special deals and so forth. The other thing is that there were never a sufficient supply of used cars available to the car rental industry. All right, so that was the program at the airports, which of course where the car rental industry, the big numbers were. In the neighborhood, that simply isn't true. Neighborhood operators are smaller. They've never had the benefit of any factory programs for cars. And so they usually purchase used cars. And most customers, they don't even expect a brand new car in the local market because very few people have ever had it. They don't care. As long as the car is clean, safe, well prepared, and just a few model years old, they're fine. A lot of people don't even know the year from one car. How a Toyota Corolla, I could not tell you what year that car is. All right, and on and on. So so they do rent the older vehicles, and they try the best they can to offer a lower rate, which they don't have to do, but they've always done it. All right, and so that's the difference between the two. At the airport, just to tell you a short story, when I was running Dollar Rent-A-Car and we would want to buy a fleet of cars, we would call the factory rep, he'd come, I'd sit down with him, and here's how the deal would go. I want 1,000 of these, I want 800 of those, I want 2,300 of these and 1,500 of those. When can you deliver? And then we would negotiate the delivery date because I had 3,000 or 4,000 cars I had to get back to the factory on repurchase programs, and I had to have replacements. And I didn't want all the cars at one time, and I didn't want to run out of cars. So delivery date was the negotiation, and that was it. We'd sign the contract, the deal is done. Took about 20 minutes to buy 4,000.
The repurchase program refers to they were buying the used cars back from you. So
correct. Yep,
okay.
They would give us a car for a certain price and guarantee to buy it back for a certain number at the end of 12 months.
Right.
Then they got some Harvard graduate in there who decided he could double the sales if they had a 6-month buyback. And he was able to sell that. So then they started offering a 6-month buyback. So we would buy and sell every 6 months. Now that was an awful lot of turnover. And that's when we actually had to start a fleet department. All right. But the point of it is there, when we were on buybacks, if you got a car at 11 months, 11-month-old car, you were getting a 30,000-mile car. You get me? So a brand new car is only brand new for a very, very short period of time.
Right.
And most people don't understand the difference. So that's in the local market. Typically the used car, 1 to 3 years old, works beautifully. 30,000 miles, clean, good background, recalls done. That works beautifully. Okay, and the other thing is this, in the local market, there might be two areas, depending on your fleet. Some operators want to have the nicest car they can have and a reasonable rate that shows a profit and a good, solid customer. Other operators, which we kind of touched on the other day, don't care about that. They want to have the cheapest possible car for the lowest possible customer. All right. And the highest possible rate, because they're renting to somebody that nobody else on the planet will rent to, like our friend out in Arizona. And after a certain period of time, that $2,000 car is paid for itself. And if it gets totaled or stolen, the operator doesn't care. He's made his money. So those are basically two ways to go. We much prefer that you work hard to attract the best customer. And the cars that you offer will typically tell the customers what type of customer you're after. Okay. Of course, you can mix up your fleet as you see the various classes. All right, you set your fleet up to suit what you think is best. We already talked about looking at what's in the body shops, looking at what other people want. You might take a look at a niche somewhere along the line. One of the niches would be convertibles, especially for the summer period. Your moving vans, like cargo vans. I like pickup trucks. Why? If you have a tradesman that has a pickup truck that is in for repair, he cannot do his business in a Toyota Corolla that the insurance company is paying for. He has to have a pickup truck. If he is insuring a pickup truck and the insurance company is going to provide a replacement, he has every right to demand a pickup truck and that his insurance company pay for it. All right. So instead of getting a $35 replacement, they might have to pay $110 a day to get a replacement from you, a pickup truck from you. That's just one side of the story. I put in a fleet of pickup trucks in Jackson, Mississippi. And I forget, 20 of them, whatever, Chevys. And everybody thought I was crazy, but I'm used to that. Again, I'm married. So we put them in 3 days, they were gone. And every time one would come back, a customer would say, is that for rent? Yes, I'll take it. All right. We couldn't keep them on the lot. They were so successful. Unfortunately, it was a buyback program. And at the end of 6 months, we had to give them back. And they didn't have another buyback program, and the franchise operator or the operator of the Jackson store didn't buy anymore. But that was the most successful little fleet we ever had, was those 20 pickup trucks. Now we're running 200 cars, but those pickup trucks were the most profitable of anything that store has ever had. So the point of it is, look around, be open to opportunity. No matter what your business plan is, be open. 15 passenger vans, you can do that. That is another niche. There are companies out there that don't rent anything but vans, and they do extremely well. Jim is the van expert. You with us, Jim?
Yep. Sorry about that.
Here's quickly one thing about these vans, guys. Airport operators hate them. All right. They may be advertised as a rate, but they don't want to rent 15 PAX vans at the airport. Why? We don't want 15 people standing in front of our rental counter for one rental.
Mhm.
And then we got to transport all those people over to the storage yard where the cars are. And all the luggage that goes with it. And it was horrible. All right, so over $1 rent a car, we eliminated the 15 passenger van. And we were starting to eliminate the 7 packs.
Hmm.
We would much rather rent them at a Chevy Impala than a 7 passenger van for the same reason. Now we got 7 people in their baggage standing in line for one rental. And I've got corporate customers standing in line, 50 of them, trying to get their car to get to a business meeting, stuck behind a tourist with 7 people and 21 pieces of baggage for one rental. The point of all that is that really moved the market for vans to the local operator. All right. And regardless of what the airport is showing, those 15 PAX vans usually are not available. So that just opens up that for you. And I'll leave it at that because from here on, Jim has the expertise on 15 PAX.
We did extremely well. You guys can hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, because we lost power here.
Oh.
And,
Oh,
that's where I was. We lost power. But anyhow, the 15 passenger vans, we had 26 vans in Southern California, in Orange County. And we were keeping them parked at different hotels. Because we had locations in 6 hotels. On Thursday, they would go out and, and I'm going back to the 90s and the early 2000s. We were renting those kids out for $170, $180 a day because we had them and nobody else did. Everybody had like 1 or 2 of them, and we had them all. So we had that, and then we had about 30 minivans. And the minivans they would go out every Thursday and come back on Monday. And during the week, we just rented them out as full-size cars.
Mhm.
The big trucks, the big vans, usually went on trips. Example, LA has a big Mormon community. Everybody wanted to go to Utah. So they would take, 1 or 2 families in a 15 passenger van, and we would put together a trip package to Utah. A lot of folks wanted to go to Las Vegas. We would not allow them to go into Mexico. So we always made sure that they realized they could not go to Mexico.
Mhm.
You may run into situations like that when you put vans in that they're going to go down to Houston and maybe into Mexico, Mexicali. Just make sure you let everybody know your vehicles cannot go into Mexico.
Mhm.
Okay. The reason being is Mexico does not have a treaty with the US as far as insurance is concerned.
Mhm.
Canada does, but not Mexico. When you put your vehicles in fleet, if you're going to buy a 1 or 2 year old or 3-year-old vehicle, you might want to hire a mechanic that's a little bit stronger than this one, although he's given it the old college try there. When you purchase your cars, you want to set up a folder for each vehicle. You can get them from Reynolds and Reynolds. They're where you put every repair order that you do to that car in that folder. You're also going to be putting it into the software, but when you go to sell the vehicle, having a folder laying on the dashboard with all the repair orders that you've done to the vehicle, that's great. It helps sell it, even at the auction. The vehicle folder can also become the place where any other paperwork goes that relates to the car. Could be where you put your title or a copy of the registration and your extra keys. We'll talk about extra keys here for a moment. In the event a customer loses the keys, some of these key fobs could cost you a couple of $100. So when you buy a vehicle, you want to find out what the extra or what the replacement costs are for that one, and make sure the customer is aware of that.
Right, okay.
All right. Before the vehicle goes into service, ensure that it passes all state and federal inspections and is adequately plated and insured. You should not rent a vehicle out on a temporary tag, although we all do, but you shouldn't. So I'm saying you shouldn't for the, in case the insurance company ever watches this. Before the vehicle goes into service, make sure it passes everything. Every car must be safety checked. Have it put in the shop. If you're buying a car with 30,000 miles on it, have them pull all the wheels and tires and check the brakes and all the brake lines and so on to make sure that the vehicle is good. And always make sure that you check it for recall. You cannot rent a car to a customer with a recall.
That goes for brand new cars.
But brand new cars too.
Yeah, just like used cars.
Yeah, you could pick up a brand new car, there's a recall on it and not know. Perfect example was Honda. They had a recall on the engines and they were still making them with the engines that had the recall and delivering them to the dealers. So make sure that, and you can do that at the NHTSA, National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. You can go in there, just put in a serial number and it'll tell you if there is any recalls. Although it might be tempting, do not buy a salvage title or a rebuilt title car. Candidly, most body shops can take a car that's been damaged, make it better than new, especially with the new frame straighteners and the unibody and all that good stuff. But if it's a salvage title and somebody gets hurt, I don't want to be sitting in court on your side of the table. So don't put in a salvage title. And as a matter of fact, if your insurance company finds out you bought a salvage title car, they could cancel you. Fleet maintenance. Every vehicle should begin with a four-wheel inspection. Pull all four wheels. I'm going to give you a couple of tips when you're putting a vehicle into stock. You can go through this as you need it, but I'll give you some tips. You want 4 matching tires on the ground before the car goes out. David, why?
Well, if they don't match, the car is squirrely, number one.
Yep.
And it's just if you get into an accident or the customer gets into an accident and the lawyer wants to blame the tires because they didn't match or they're not the right size, that's negligent entrustment. So that's what you want to watch. There was a case with the, if I remember, the Ford Explorer. And Ford Explorer rolled over, caught on fire, somebody was killed. The attorneys tried to blame Firestone or whatever for the tires. So this is one of the reasons you want to make sure they're matched and they're, of course, in good shape.
And it's
So, for example, if we have a car that has 4 Firestone tires, model ABC, and we take it into the shop after 30,000 miles, and the mechanic tells us we need to replace 2 of the tires. Does that mean that we should just replace those 2 tires with the same type of tires as the others? Or now we need to replace all 4 tires with the same tires again?
Well, there's another aspect to tires. One of the things that you're going to do when you buy a car is having 4 matching tires on the ground. You want to go and get one of those paint pens that they have at the like Michael's and the craft stores,
Yeah.
because you want to get one in a weird color and you want to put a dot on every tire. Not that this would ever happen in New Jersey, but sometimes a couple of glasses of wine, maybe a little whiskey, and we're looking at mama's car and we're looking at the rental car and saying, hey, they're the same size tires. And then they bring the car back and you're looking at the tires when they bring it back. You go, boy, those Goodyears didn't last worth anything, did they? We just put them on a month or 6 months ago and they're already bald. Well, they weren't already bald. They stole them and put them on their car.
Right.
So when you're checking the car out, you want to eyeball that little dot that you put on the sidewall. And when it comes back, you want to eyeball that same dot to make sure they're there. If they're not, you want to ask the customer why you changed the tires. A better answer to what you asked me is it's a decision you have to make. If you do replace only 2 tires and it's front wheel drive, you put those on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And you never mismatch front tires at all on a front wheel drive car. Okay. Tread design is very important, especially in the rain. Let's talk about windshields. Today, today's cars are designed to crumple in a crash. And the windshields constitute a significant component in the vehicle's structural integrity. A clean, well-maintained rental car is the product that you put out on the street. Be sure it represents your business. If there's a ding in the windshield, you want to replace it. But you want to make sure that the company that is replacing the windshield is replacing it with OEM glass and OEM adhesives. And you want to make sure that he explains to you the drying time. You only have to ask the question once or twice, and then that same fellow will remember to bring you OEM glass. Mm-hmm. So that in the event of an accident, it would crumple the way it's supposed to. A well-maintained rental car is a product that you put out on the street. Be sure it's what you want to represent your business. And would you want your son, daughter, or spouse, mom, dad to drive that car 150 to 200 miles away? If not, then it should not be in your fleet. We suggest you perform preventive maintenance either at the vehicle schedules or 3,000 to 5,000 miles. We have a vehicle checklist in the 4th session with the forms. A unit numbering system. The reason I put this in here, or we put this in here, is too often we see these 6 or 7 digit numbers. I got to ask you, why? The simplest thing is you start with vehicle number 1, number 2, number 3. That's all you care about, is that you know which car is which.
But your software will require a numbering system.
It will. And you want to you want a real simple one. GPS tracking. Remember I said that that there is no insurance for a converted car.
Yes.
So you want to put in a tracking device before any car goes out on service. There's a couple of reasons for it. Not so much that I think my customers are going to steal the car from me. What I'm more concerned about is if they break down on the highway, and by the way, you guys might get some snow this weekend. So
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, you heard. You might get some snow this weekend and you could have a minivan break down on the freeway and they can't tell you exactly where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting roadside assistance through US Choice. Mm-hmm. So you want to be able to the customer is going to call you or the roadside assistance. You want to be able to give the roadside assistance their longitude and latitude. They'll be able to find them without knowing the address. The easiest way to do it is you can tell where the vehicle is within 16 feet.
Mhm.
And you can give them the address of where the customer is.
Rentware offers this product as well?
Well, the SVR tracking is something that we sell.
Okay,
It's a separate item. It comes with a, how do I say this? It comes with the tracking device and a starter interrupt. Example, a customer rents a car and you call him halfway through the rental to see how things are going. And he says, I have no idea, my girlfriend stole the car. No problem. All you have to do is go to your computer and with a couple of keystrokes, you disable the starter. So as soon as she stops to buy her boyfriend or her other boyfriend a pack of cigarettes, she won't be able to restart the car.
so a couple of questions with that. I've heard, actually it came up in some of the seminars at the car rental show.
Yeah.
Some people were saying that in some states that's illegal. And also some were saying that if you have that feature on the car, in some cars, it terminates the warranty.
It's the engine.
Yeah. Yes and no. If you're putting a tracking device in your neighbor's car because you think he's cheating with your wife, that's illegal. If you're putting a tracking device in someone else's car, that's illegal. If you're in the buy here, pay here business and you put a tracking device in the car and you turn the car off if they didn't pay you, that's illegal. But with a rental car, it's your car. And there isn't a state anywhere where you don't have reclevy laws.
Okay,
So if they don't pay, if you think the item is in jeopardy, shut off the starter, go get it. It's
and
your
what
car.
about the warranty on the car? On some
Well, some of these new cars, the new cars that start with a push button,
Mhm.
where that can mess up is if you put it on the starter relay. What we've found with our folks, they put it on a brake pedal because you have to step on the brake pedal before you start the car.
Mhm.
Otherwise, the ignition button won't work.
Mhm.
So by putting it and wiring it into the brake pedal, it's not doing anything with the computer. It's just when you step on the brake pedal, it's just going to say he hasn't stepped on the brake pedal yet.
What about the remote starters?
Same thing. With remote starters, well, frankly, with remote starters, you don't want to send out a car with a remote starter.
So that's not part of the fleet we want to buy.
No, and if the car has a remote starter, just put it away.
Yeah.
Okay, or disable it. Because the last thing you want is, well, first of all, you want the customer to have control of the car. And if he takes it to a what do you call it? Where the sky cap takes the car and parks it.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want that. You don't want him to have a remote starter on the car. Remember, they're not buying the car. Put that remote starter, if they got it in, if it's a separate button, separate piece, put it in the folder. Most cars that you're going to be buying will not have a remote starter, so it's a non-issue.
Okay.
And many of the cars today as well that do offer a remote start, you need to do it from an app on your phone.
Exactly. And so I wouldn't worry about that. Roadside service. If you're buying a new car, you're going to get roadside service. You're gonna get roadside service through US Choice. I think it costs you $5 a day. Or $5 a month rather, and they tack it onto your insurance.
Yeah.
It's all included. Routine maintenance, we talked briefly about. Routine maintenance, pretty straightforward. Always check the fluids. It's amazing the number of cars that I see at night coming towards me with one headlight out.
Mhm.
People don't check their headlights. So when a car comes back, you just want to do a walk around, make sure the lights and so on. Never rent a dirty vehicle. Nothing will destroy the image of your company worse than a dirty vehicle. In a pinch, clean the interior, clean the streaked windows, clean the sticky steering wheel. I haven't figured out why steering wheels get sticky, but they do. And I don't want to know why. So, by the way, when you're vacuuming the car, pay attention to ashtrays and under the seats. And you might want to make a note on this. Always clean out the glove box.
Mhm.
The only stuff that should be in the glove box is what you want in the glove box.
Those side pockets of the doors.
Absolutely, where all the water bottles get crunched and shoved into the side pocket.
Yeah.
Make sure you clean those out. And the gum that gets stuck in the side pocket. And if you save the gum and you get enough of it, you could always, no, never mind. One of the things that I want everybody to understand is if you leave, many customers are going to leave their rental agreement in the glove box. And you don't want to be renting a car or a minivan to somebody for $170 a day. And the guy that had it last week paid $130.
Mhm.
Okay. Last of all, when I'm doing the interior, I want to make sure that I do not reach underneath the seats. I look underneath the seats, but I don't reach in. Sanitizing the car. You may want to consider getting a program to help you sanitize the car, especially right now with COVID and all this kind of stuff. I read one article that says you can't catch COVID by touching. You can't catch COVID outside. But if I'm in New York City, everybody's wearing a mask and I haven't figured that out yet. And yeah. And I love it when I see one person driving a car with a mask on. Nobody else in the car.
Mhm.
But then again, I don't.
So I met a guy in Vegas actually who has an rental agency in Miami,
Yeah.
and he told me that they started tacking on a $10 COVID sanitizing fee onto every car, and he was showing me that they were just making extra gravy was pouring in,
And
and everybody understood it because they understood it, they wanted it. And he said it wasn't really costing them any more than just a regular cleaning.
I was just going to say a regular cleaning and a can of Lysol.
Right.
Is that cruel? But it's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me interject one thing. One of the things that a lot of customers I talk to have run into is marijuana.
Mhm.
And the unfortunate part of it is that the marijuana sticks to you longer than Taco Bell sauce does.
Yeah.
And it sticks to that car for a long time. I've had customers tell me, I wish they just smoked cigarettes in my car.
Right.
And, it's only legal in a few states, but people seem to think it's legal nationwide.
Yeah.
Does marijuana fall under the smoking category where you can charge them that fee at the end of the day?
Well, absolutely. But the thing is, you're going to have to get an enzyme spray. It's usually at a pet supply store, Walmart, whatever, that's used for cat urine.
Yeah.
And you spray the inside of the car, lock it up, let it sit for an hour, and that takes care of it.
Right.
Or get a bag of potato chips.
You can get a bag of potato chips and lock yourself in the car for a couple hours.
Really?
When you run out of potato chips, come out of the car and you won't care if it smells. So
Really?
I had a
you gotta
boss.
remember, that was what one guy told me that I thought was hilarious. You gotta remember, some states it's absolutely legal.
Right.
You know,
And I have to laugh because back in the 60s, it was a 4-year prison sentence for possession of any amount of marijuana. And then I've gone through 40 years of the war on drugs. It looks like we lost that war.
Yeah.
we did. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you want to watch for. If you smell marijuana, you're going to have an additional expense, and you have every right to charge a cleanup fee
Okay.
for something like that. Also, dog hair. I love dogs. I'm an animal lover, but some of these dogs shed like wildfire, like a German Shepherd. And if you have a cloth interior, the dog hair and the cloth interior stick together like Velcro.
Yeah.
And some people are allergic to it. It
Yeah.
wouldn't bother me, but some people are allergic to it. So you'll be vacuuming dog hair out of that car for 3 months. You're entitled to a cleanup fee. Excuse me, sorry.
No, that's good. Candidly, once the vehicle is ready, then you want to put a ready tag in it. A nice touch. I don't know if you guys have ever popped the hood recently on a Mercedes, and actually anytime on a Mercedes. The final inspection for that Mercedes before it goes to the dealership, they sign on the firewall, or not the firewall, on the radiator core support. They sign their name. This car inspected by.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's a nice touch for a customer. When they go to get the car and there's a tag hanging from the steering wheel, or from the mirror rather, saying that the car was done by so-and-so. One of our folks has a 3x5 card printed up with this car done especially, cleaned especially for you. And here's a piece of candy so you can, or a sweet candy so you can enjoy your sweet ride. And they staple a hard candy to the thing and put it on the seat of the car. Just a nice touch. He even told us about how a guy, after he brought the car back, he went over and he said, "I want to know who cleaned the car," and he gave him a tip. He said he did such a nice job in cleaning a car. Never fallen in love with a car. It's only rubber, paint, and plastic. I don't care if it's the best car you ever had. I don't care if it's the only powder blue car in your fleet and everybody loves that color. Doesn't matter. If it's time to get rid of it and go get another one.
Does this apply also to a wife who's only skin and bones?
I'm not going to touch that one because my wife is in the other room.
Oh, okay.
And we're coming up on the big 5-0. So
Okay.
yeah, I'd like to be alive for that.
Yeah. Congrats.
First impression.
Mine have always had expiration dates.
Oh.
4.
Yeah, he's at 4.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like Big Lou.
Yeah, exactly. Big Lou's like you.
Yeah. And he's on meds too.
Exactly.
First impressions are the ones that last. David, you got to tell the story about facility. When we were doing the class here
We used to have this session was always held in our classroom, in our offices. And we had a lady there sitting in the back of the room, a nice lady, and everything was going fine. We popped up this slide of this location, and she rolled back in her chair and started to hoot and howl and laugh and yell. It was quite a scene. We say, what is that? She said, that looks like my father's store.
And was it? It was?
No, it wasn't, but she said it looked just like it. And dad was supporting her to open up her car rental. But he intended it was going to be in his location.
Right.
And she saw that and just thought, wow, somebody took a picture of dad's store. And we started talking. And one other thing that popped up is, look, even in a store like that, please, the fish tank with green water and the fish floating upside down on the top, please get rid of it. And she started hooting and howling again. She said, my father has that. I've been trying to tell him to get rid of it for 3 years. Right.
That's funny.
The end result of that particular story is that she went ahead and opened, but her father allowed her to get a different location to operate the car rental.
Because of
And
course he refused to clean.
she opened in a nice, clean location and has done quite well.
That's funny.
Too funny.
So,
Well, first impressions, like we're saying, the ones that last, you'll notice this is a rent-a-wreck facility.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes the rent-a-wreck operators take it too literal. So would you want to drop off your wife at a place that looks like that? No. Would you mind dropping off your wife at a place that looks like this?
That would be okay.
That would be okay. I wouldn't feel uncomfortable at all.
Right.
And there's a guy that understands that rent-a-wreck doesn't mean you have to say you're sorry. It
Right.
means that I'm going to rent a used car and I'm going to give you a good, fair price.
Right.
Whether you plan to open a freestanding facility or add the rental to an existing business, there are some things you want to check. Make sure you have the proper zoning.
Mhm.
Make sure you have a spot to clean the vehicles.
Mhm.
Make sure you have parking for your fleet and staff and customers.
Mhm.
Visibility to the public. Make sure they can find you is a better way. You don't have to be right on the four corners downtown, but you want them to be able to find you without too much trouble. And you want signage and capability, or signage capability and permits.
Mhm.
Getting a permit for a big sign like this so that people can see it from the street.
Mhm.
A freestanding facility just for rentals and nothing else is what we mean by a freestanding facility.
Mhm.
Make sure you have proper street signage, building ID are utmost important, and signs around the building. And candidly, we have a lot of folks that go into strip malls, which I think this one is, in a strip mall. And there's parking in the front and parking behind the building. If you're going to add on to an existing building, decide the most convenient place for your vehicles to be parked. Make sure you have a separate telephone line. You don't want to be answering the phone, Billy Bob's Repairs and Rentals, because everybody's going to forget and rentals. They're going to be answering the phone, Billy Bob's. Okay, you want a separate phone line that sounds different so that you're answering the phone properly. The facility that you guys are looking at is an standalone or what?
It's right behind one building.
Uh-huh.
It does have signage capability right on the street.
Good,
You go down a very large open driveway,
good.
and it's right in the back where we'll also be able to have a sign there as well.
Perfect. So it's going to be easy to find.
Yeah.
Signage around your business is the best form of advertising for the customer already familiar with your business. A sign on the street will create awareness. And remember to check zoning and sign laws. You're going to need permits for those. Your rental counter. You should have a rental counter that's large enough and comfortable. Some offices have successfully used desks, space permitting, and they work pretty well.
Mhm.
You will also need a locking file cabinet for contracts and document storage.
Mhm.
Okay. You should have a key cabinet. If you've got a stand-up four drawer cabinet with your closed rental agreements, one of those drawers could be for your key cabinet, or you may want to consider getting a separate key cabinet. Future insurance companies, when they look at your business for renewal, they're going to want to know what your key security is.
Mhm.
And you want to make sure you lock your keys up at night. Now it's snowing outside and you got 100 cars in inventory and 10 of them are sitting still. You got to go out and move all 10 of those cars. So you grab the 10 sets of keys and you go out and you put one on the hood of each car so that you can get them started and move them out of the way so you can plow snow.
Mhm.
And then you gather up all 10 keys after you park the cars and you're doing the right thing. And then you go inside and you take the 10 keys and throw them on the top counter so that you can go out and finish plowing the sidewalk. And you left the keys on the counter. And in the meantime, a customer comes in and rents a car. There's nothing to stop him from snatching up a set of keys when your rental agent is not paying attention. And he can come back tonight at midnight and pick up a car. So you want to think our key cabinets are very important.
Most of the time when I think all the time when I've rented cars, so they give both of the key fobs and they have them attached by a little thing that you can't you can't undo it and open it up.
Right.
So doesn't that defeat the purpose of giving them both keys? Because if they're going to lose that, they're losing both fobs.
You wouldn't give them both fobs anyway.
Exactly. You give them just one set.
Mhm.
And you put the extra set in the glove box, or I'm sorry, in the folder for the car.
Mhm.
And it's always a good idea to make up a third set.
Mhm.
Because if they lose one and you send the extra set out, now
Then
you
you
don't
don't
And then
have
something
anything
happens to that one, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea to get one made. And there are several companies out there that make them now
Mhm.
for a lot less than the manufacturers are
Dealers,
charging,
right.
than the dealerships.
Mhm.
David,
Yeah,
would you like to talk about a rental contract?
all right. You got to remember, guys, when you make a rental, you're going to complete what the form calls a rental agreement between you and the customer. That is actually a contract. And even though it says rental agreement on it, we much prefer that you consider it to be a contract
Mhm.
because it is a legally binding contract. You also have to remember that the most important part of your rental contract is the backside.
Mhm.
All right, the backside has what we call terms and conditions. We're going to show you that in a moment. And that is the most important part. When you're on a software program, the software prints the top. That's the most common part of the rental contract that you see. It doesn't print both sides, so you have to print the front and the back
Yeah.
on a software program because the customer has to have both the front and the back to make it a legally binding contract between you and him.
Uh-huh.
Make sure that he signs the contract. You never want to deliver a car to someone without a signed contract. Signature on file doesn't work.
Mhm.
All right. In the case of a repeat customer, he comes there all the time. All right, you just hand him the keys. Okay, John, I'll fill out the contract and you put out signature on file. He's happy. He came in, he was out in a minute and a half. You don't have a legal contract.
Right.
All right. So please keep that in mind. You want to read the terms and conditions when you get it. All right. But remember that whether, let's say you're delivering a car to a very special customer at a local hotel.
Mhm.
Could happen. It's happened to me many times. And let's say that the clerk at the hotel wants to accept the car for the customer. You don't have a signed contract,
Right.
all right? If the contract is made out to Prince or Ruby, you gotta have a signature from Prince or Ruby. All right,
Mhm.
and remember that that is simply a legal requirement for a contract. Okay, coming down, some states have specific laws regarding the rental contract. New Jersey is one. We call that a state-specific rental contract or rental agreement. When you're on a software program, the next rental agreement that you process will be state-specific. If they change the laws in your state, the next rental agreement you print will be state-specific with the new laws.
Uh-huh.
Software companies contract with a legal firm to provide all the data, the requirements of all the states, and they just type that in when they get it.
Rentware does that. Rentware does that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All the software does, if you have a software that has support and updates, specifically a monthly fee,
Uh-huh.
because that's what pays the lawyers to
Mhm.
provide all the information. If you go out and buy a canned program for $39.95 and they're out there, that's not state specific, it never will be, and you can't change it.
Mhm.
All right, you're stuck with what you got. So what you want a program that offers support and updates. You might want to change something on the contract that is legal to change. And they'll be happy to change it for you. All right. Whereas a canned program, you cannot do that.
Right.
Okay. So anyhow, and also you never ever destroy a rental contract. IRS wants you to store these contracts for 7 years. Personal information is 3 years, business is 7. All right. Never destroy a contract. They come numbered. Your software system will automatically number them. If you're taking hard copy rental agreements from GMI, they're going to come numbered. And of course, if you're ever audited for state sales tax, they're going to want to see consecutively numbered rental agreements. And if they see a missing rental agreement, they're going to fine you.
So if we're using a software then, and it's all, on or in the cloud, then
Yeah.
if we have a voided contract, it saves it as a voided contract, I guess.
That's right. Save it as a voided contract. Now, I want to mention one thing too. You want to be set up so that you can print a hard copy. All right, and you want a hard copy of the signed contract. If it ever has to go to court, and maybe you won't take it to court, but GMI might,
Mhm.
because they're going to protect you in the courtroom. All right, they're going to need a hard copy signed contract to protect you in court. You can't walk in there with an iPad and show the judge a picture. You don't do that way. All right. So find a method by which you can provide a hard copy of your rental contracts.
And printing that contract that's signed on the iPad is sufficient. So
Yeah,
I just,
It out, yeah.
Yeah.
okay. So I don't need, I'm not required to have to print up and save a hard copy of every contract. I just have to have the ability to be able to print that signed
That's
copy.
right, absolutely. All right, and you gotta have both sides and a customer signature. If there's no customer signature, you're dead meat,
Okay.
okay? All right, so anyhow, we're gonna come down, we're gonna show you a sample rental agreement. Now, first off, on a manual, they're not doing that much anymore. They got so behind during COVID with providing manual rental agreements that they're really not doing much of it anymore. They're sending you a rental agreement via email, and then you print all of them you want. This would be a sample of a manual format rental agreement. All I want to do is point out a couple of things to you that are very important on any rental agreement that you may want. First off, upper left, customer info. Coming down, additional driver info, just like the renter. You gotta have it all because he's driving around in your car.
Mhm.
So you have every right to know who he is, and you want to make sure he's insured.
Mhm.
Coming down, the customer's insurance company, you want information on the insurance company for that customer and any additional driver. All right.
So if they're saying that they're covered from the credit card, as we had discussed previously,
They are not
you have to
covered.
you have to call the credit card company right there in front of the customer, make sure that they're covered. And then
Absolutely,
put
because
that
they're
information-
not covered by the credit card company anyhow, so.
Right. Okay.
But you can certainly call and, I'm not gonna argue with you on that one, but I would never accept someone telling me my credit card covers it because they simply don't.
Yeah.
All right, so coming down, you would have the collision damage waiver. This is an old rental agreement where we used to have collision damage waiver. Now we don't want you to sell collision damage waiver. And the rental agreement that GMI offers will say renter's collision protection. All right, so it's going to have the explanation of that program. And you're going to have the state-specific requirement. And this one is rejection of uninsured motorists, but this is a Pennsylvania form. It's different than New Jersey.
Mhm.
Okay, coming up to the the top in the middle, we're gonna put in the car information. We're gonna come down and here's a cool place. Vehicle must not be driven outside blank mile radius. This is where you decide the geographic limits that you want to put on the use of your car. You can keep it within New Jersey, you can keep it within a 5-state radius, 150 miles, whatever you choose.
Mhm.
The key is always ask the customer, sir, will you be staying locally or going out of town? Oh, no, we're local. We're just going to run over to Chicago. Well, now, wait a minute. All right, you have your choice. You'll love Chicago in November, although nobody does. Or you can say, sir, I'm sorry, but our cars have to stay in New Jersey. Your choice. With each and every rental, you can make a choice.
Mhm.
But you should know where he plans to go because that's where he's going. So don't be surprised if you don't ask where he's going and he calls you from Orlando with a flat tire.
Mhm.
Don't be surprised if you didn't ask. All right. Because if you had asked, he would have told you. All right. So then you've got, coming down, we've got our gas chart. Circle the amount of gas in the car when he takes it. All right. Coming down, we've got damage, dent right front, scratch right rear. All right. We're going to go to the upper top right. And we're going to put in our coming down. We're going to put in our date out. You want the date and the time. Your software will do that. The next line is date due back. Mr. Smith, when will you be returning our car? Don't tell him when it's due back. Ask him when he's going to bring it back. because that's what he wants to do. All right, put in that date. All right, now, always, always, always have a date due back. This is where body shops have been beat up. Cars in the shop for expected 10 days. But it might require a fender that they have to order from Taiwan.
Mhm.
So it could be 30 days. So you leave the rental agreement due back date open because you don't know the exact date. And you just say, okay, sir, when the body shop is done with your car, bring back mine. And then you can pick up yours and you're happy. Well, here's what happens. If you have no due back date, the customer legally never has to return the car. And it's not stolen because you gave it to him. All right. So you try to turn that over to a policeman or the judge, and they say there's no due back date. And the customer says, look, I called him and told him I'll return the car next month. Where are you going to be with this one? You lose. All right. So always have a due back date, even if you pull a date out of the air, have a due back date because that is the date that protects you.
But you also don't want to do it more than 30 days because then it becomes a lease.
Absolutely.
So it has to stay within 30 days as well.
Absolutely. And if he plans to have the car for 45 days, sir, we need you back. Close out the contract, open a new one, everybody's happy. We'll
Right.
freshen up
Okay.
your car. You know, while we're doing that, we'll run it through the car wash or whatever.
Right.
Okay, so coming down, we have our rate structures, et cetera. We coming down to deposit.
Oh, hold,
everything we
one sec,
take in.
on the rate structures, this particular contract I see does not account for hourly rates in the event that they come
Yes,
after.
it does. Hourly, you'll see hourly on there. You've got your day, week, estimated mileage. Oh, this one does not have hourly.
No, the new one does.
Yeah, so you can disregard that. The new one has hourly on it,
Okay,
as does all the software.
okay,
But remember, hourly is typically overtime.
right,
Now, if you want to rent by the hour, you certainly can. I've got an operator that does it. It's the hourly rate he puts out with a 2-hour minimum.
right,
So like if the car is $45 a day, he's going to put it out for $15 an hour with a 2-hour minimum.
right,
And he picks up $30 in 2 hours.
right. I was referring to the over.
Yeah, over it.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming down, you got the deposit line, which is important. As we discussed, or if we didn't, we will now. You want to run the credit card for the expected rental plus a deposit of $250 or more.
Mhm.
And sir, we're going to take a small deposit. And when you return, if there's no additional charges, we'll refund the deposit.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to do it. Everybody does. You're giving this person that you don't know a $24,000 car.
Mhm.
What do you have in return? You have a piece of paper and a credit card number.
Mhm.
It's a lopsided transaction and you're on the short end of the stick.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid to ask for the deposit. When I rented in Chicago, pre-pandemic, I mentioned, I had the car for 3 days at $30 a day because it was over a weekend. They ran my credit card for $350. And I didn't even know it. They did it so quickly. I didn't even know it till I got to the hotel and looked at my rental agreement.
Uh-huh.
All right, so a $90 rental plus tax, they ran my credit card for $350. When I returned the car, they processed a credit for anything that wasn't used in the rental.
Uh-huh.
Incidentally, the gas charge at Dollar in Chicago is $9.99 a gallon. and I had to pay it. All right, because I didn't buy the gas option, and I couldn't find a gas station on the way in.
Right.
Okay, so then, of course, you got your signatures. Here's an example of the backside, the terms and conditions. This is very similar on all of the rental agreements, whether it's a GMI or rentware or whatever. Whenever you want some truly exciting reading, pull this out.
Mhm.
I mean, it's fascinating. You won't be able to put it down. You will probably never read it. I strongly suggest you do once. Because here's the point, and I'm sorry for going on and on. Every word on this contract is to protect you. That's the only purpose. There's nothing here to protect the customer. So it's in your benefit to read it, understand what it says, and it will answer a lot of questions that you might have on things that come up in the rental.
So where would it say, for example, about additional charges like cleaning for smoke or cleaning for marijuana and things like that?
Yeah, something similar to that. It won't go into that much detail. But the car has to be returned in the same condition that it was provided. And if it's not returned in the same condition, you're certainly entitled to charge for all the differences.
So where would that language be indicated on the contract on this page?
I would
here?
suggest you read it and find out.
Okay.
I'm sorry to be so direct. I didn't mean it to come out that way.
No, I understand though. I understand what you're
All right.
talking about.
So like you say, you have a question? Well, there it is.
Yeah.
Now, here's another point you can do. If there is something specific to you
Yeah.
that you don't feel that the contract covers,
Right.
you can do what we call an addendum.
Yeah.
I call it a page 3. Write up whatever is special to you, whatever you have in your mind, et cetera, et cetera. All right. And put it down on page 3 and have it in the software so that it prints when you make a rental. And when you're making the rental, you're doing all the typing to type in the info. Hand that page, that addendum to the customer, have him read it and sign it.
Mhm.
It keeps him busy while you're busy.
Right.
So it has 2 benefits, and it's specific to you. All right. And then he signs that, you attach it to the rental agreement, it's legal.
Mhm.
All right. So a lot of operators are doing that if they have special situations.
Mhm.
Okay, here's a sample of a rentware computer generated contract. And you'll see that it's entirely different.
Mhm.
All the information you need is there,
Mhm.
but it's in a different format.
Mhm.
Okay. And of course, this one you'll see no smoking, et cetera, et cetera.
I see it.
Uh, excessively dirty, $250 cleanup fee. So there's a number of things that that particular operator had added,
Right.
and you can do that. And there's plenty of room for you to add specific items to your operation
Right.
on the front of the rentware contract.
Right.
Over on the left-hand side, it also has the rhetoric that's specific to renters collision protection.
Mhm.
So you put in the price that you want to charge. It explains renters collision protection. That's all they need to know.
Mhm.
And a place for them to sign to take it. And then below that, the notice will be your state specific information. I don't know what this was, what state this was.
That's Maryland.
Pardon me?
Maryland.
Oh, okay. All right. And so this is what it's going to look like.
Yep.
Right. And here, renter's signature, and then if our vehicle is replacement vehicle is defined in blah, 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 Maryland Transportation Code. All right, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So anything state specific is there, and you can add your own. Terms and conditions on the back are very similar, because that's what the lawyers like.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions on that so far?
Nope.
Now, how
Okay.
this works, the simple way to explain this is you buy it pre-printed from the rental car software company.
Mhm.
And you get these pre-printed on one side on regular paper.
Mhm.
And then you load them in to your computer printer so that it runs through and it prints all the other stuff on the other side.
Uh-huh.
Right. So you have a one-page contract.
Right.
Yeah.
And you print two of them, one for the customer, one for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're just using plain paper, then you've got to print
Right.
both the front and the back for you, and the front and the back for the customer. So it's 4 documents you're printing.
Right.
So you want to get these pre-done.
Right.
Okay, what's new? Well, first I want to go to kiosk apps. You might see it at the airport. The problem is the airport is when they opened up to tourist travel and the rent-a-car companies were renting to leisure travel. The business traveler that was their staple business was having to stand in line behind the tourists. And whereas a business rental took a minute and a half, a tourist rental took 10 minutes, and it was ugly. And so Hertz primarily put kiosk apps, applications outside of the terminal or in the terminal alongside the rental counter. And it was for their business travelers and their Hertz Premier customers, the premium customers. And they would walk up and slide their credit card and slide their driver's license and punch in a reservation number, and out bang would come a rental contract and tell them exactly where the car is, sometimes even the keys.
Mhm.
All right, and so that got that customer away from the counter. You probably don't need it. However, it is available. There is one source that Jim looked into that had that available. All right, so we're talking about contactless rental.
Mhm.
It was about 25 grand. All right, but they sold a few of them.
Mhm.
The other one is the mobile app, which is exactly what you plan to do. Everybody wants to do that. That's fine. All right, you're going to do it on your iPhone. You're going to do it on your iPad. You're going to do it wherever you want to do it. All right, we call it virtual because in a lot of cases, this is done without being in front of the customer. And you're going to get a contract and a DocuSign in advance, and you're going to take pictures of it, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Here's the issue. Remember, like we discussed before, the proper way to do it is to walk around the car with the customer, show them the damages, show him how to operate the vehicle, get a signed contract, and send him on his way. When the car comes back, you want to go around the car with the customer, note any additional damages,
Mhm.
calculate the rentals, give him a receipt, thank him for the business, and send him on his way. When you're doing it virtually, what is happening, if you are not with the customer, you open yourself up to risk.
Mhm.
Now, I don't want to scare you, but the possibility can happen. Let's say that you keys under the mat, pick up the car in this location. You've already got pictures of the cars, blah, blah, blah. He picks it up. He drops it off. You go there the next day to pick it up. There's damage on the car. You call him. He says, Mr. Devor, I don't know what you're trying to pull. I left that car exactly where you told me to leave it, exactly when you told me to leave it, and there was not a dent on that car.
Mhm.
So I don't know what you're trying to do, but don't try to charge me. Because that dent was not there when I left that car. You have no proof. You can take pictures of that dent all day long. If the date on that picture was not the date that he returned the car, the picture has no value.
Mhm.
Now, if he's honest, yeah, he'll say, okay, send me a bill, blah, blah, blah. But how many of that? How many people are going to be that honest
Mhm.
when they're facing 200 or 300 or 500 on a damage? It's not. All right, the other issue there is the customer shows up, takes the car, gone. Was that your customer? Or was that his 17-year-old son
Mhm.
that he rented the car virtually from you for his son on prom night? Because he couldn't get a car for the son any other way. How do you know who's actually got your car? All right. How do you know that he's got a driver's license? Did you ask for a picture of the license, or did you just let him put in the information on the license? I can go on and on.
Mhm.
These are issues you want to keep in mind when you're setting up a virtual system.
Mhm.
All right. And remember, when something goes wrong, it's always against you. And you have to prove that the customer is responsible for something.
Mhm.
All right. And in the case where somebody drives off of that car and then the customer shows up an hour later and calls and said, Mr. Devor, the car's not there. Well, who has it? I don't know, Mr. Devor, but I'm here. All right. And I'll show you the pictures on my iPhone. Your car ain't here. What about if a girlfriend picked it up? A brother, somebody knows what he did and went and got it ahead of him.
Mhm.
Now who has your car? So I don't want to scare you. I want you to set up your system so that you are comfortable on your ability to charge for damage and that the customer is real and that the driver's license is good. Okay,
Mhm.
questions?
Nope.
All right.
We are coming up on 11:30. And Pace has another call to go to.
Not confirmed yet, so
Oh, okay. So we can continue?
yeah, sure, absolutely.
Okay. The next session that we're talking about is marketing.
Mhm.
Now, you had said you're not going to do much marketing, but I want to go through this for you
Okay.
so that you realize that there is a certain amount of marketing you do need to do.
Okay.
Case in point, my neighbor years ago had an accident and rented a car, and he didn't rent it from me. And I asked him, I said, how come you didn't rent from me? He said, I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't know you were renting cars.
Mhm.
Whose fault was that?
Yep.
Yeah. So we have to take a look at getting our name out, especially in the very beginning.
Mhm.
Marketing is the process of identifying the market for your product, finding a competitive advantage in that marketplace, and offering your product to that market. In other words, sales. Rental cars are not a spur of the moment buying decision. Most customers will not respond to your advertising until they need it, which usually comes after a breakdown or weekend trips. For this reason, don't expand your advertising, or marketing to bring in, don't expect your advertising and marketing to bring in instant results. The key is being persistent and visible. You need to identify your market. When a customer needs a rental car, most times it's an emergency. Their vehicle will not start. They're at a shop. They have no way to get home from work. Worse yet, they just had a fender bender and their car's being towed away. Begin by getting in your car from your location and drive north, south, east, and west.
Excuse me just a minute.
And do that at drive time. Because most of these breakdowns are going to occur when somebody's coming out of work and then the battery's dead. And they're going to need a car for tonight to get home. So you want to know how far you can get at drive time in 10 minutes. That's where you're going to make your sales calls or sales visits, which is what I like to do. Be sure to do this during the drive time, because when your phone rings, somebody's going to say, how long will it take you to get here? 10 minutes. Well, if it really can be 10 minutes, then you know you can tell them that. But I got to tell you, if somebody waits for you for 11 minutes, he's been waiting a half hour as far as he's concerned. That's just how people are. So my grandfather taught me years ago, if you have to be there at 1:45, okay, and you get there at 25 minutes to, you're already 5 minutes late. So it's not too different here.
Yeah.
You'll be there because you know you can. There is no reason to market your services outside that area for now. Now you should identify the customer base that you want to attract. And honestly, I got to tell you, if you go north, south, east, and west, 10 minutes each direction, depending on the road that you're on, that's a pretty good area.
Yeah.
And a lot of people. And a lot of body shops, a lot of garages, a lot of hotels, a lot of motels, a lot of trucking places, okay? A lot of synagogues, a lot of churches,
Right.
okay? A lot of colleges, high schools, people that need passenger vehicles. Consider what you can do better than your competition. First thing you can do is you can be there in 10 minutes. Second thing you can do is you're going to provide a sanitized vehicle. Third thing you can do is you're going to be right there and pick them up and bring them back to your place.
Right.
Okay. Only don't advertise that, because Enterprise, how do they say it? They have the rights to the phrase "will pick you up." Okay, so don't use that. Then it would help you to build a marketing plan.
Excuse me,
Yes,
they'll pick you up,
but they
but
won't
they
bring you
won't take
back.
you back.
No. As a matter of fact, if you want to use that, you could say, "We'll take you back."
Right. Exactly.
That's right. That could be your motto. We'll take you back.
Right.
I called Enterprise when I flew into, I think it was Cleveland. And they were out of cars at the airport. And they said, we'll run you over to our office outside of town about 20 minutes. I said, great. So they ran me over there and dropped me off, and I rented the car. Everybody was really nice, and off I went. And when I brought the car back, I expected a ride back to the airport. They said, I'm sorry, we don't do that, but let me call Uber.
Really?
Yes.
And you had to return it to them. You couldn't return it to the
I
location.
had to return it to them. That's correct.
Wow. Yeah.
Nice, huh? That's
Yeah.
Enterprise.
Yeah.
In the past few years, the Yellow Pages have been the first and hardest hitting place to advertise rental business.
Right.
Not anymore.
Right.
It's still good. The previous thought of a larger ad is the better, not necessarily.
Right.
But you want to make sure that you've got a listing in the phone book. David gives me a hard time all the time, because when we were in the office, he would hear me trying to find something, and he would come walking in after me going through a dozen different lists of lists. He would walk in with his Yellow Page book and hand it to me, and there was somebody circled, here, call this guy.
Yeah.
And it usually worked out. And don't tell David I said that. Local publication advertising, right, David?
Got it. I agree with you. You
Huh?
should have a bold listing, if nothing else.
Yeah,
Take a look at your yellow pages, see what your competition is doing.
Right.
There's still a bunch of people that are over 50 that will go to the yellow pages, right? I do it. I found a hard experience trying to find a plumber or an electrician or somebody that would fix Jim's boat. After going through many pages in the web trying to find this stuff, all I was getting is a list of lists. I went to the yellow pages. I had a plumber in my house in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I had a guy to fix Jim's boat in 5 minutes.
I hate that.
So don't underestimate the value of the yellow pages. A bold listing is too cheap not to do.
Let's talk about a local publication advertising. Advertising in local newspapers will increase your customer awareness, but not necessarily show you an immediate response.
Mhm.
If you want to advertise there, we suggest a small display ad. Local publication advertising is most efficient for brand building. You might want to consider it in the very beginning, but you're not going to get immediate results either.
Right.
Public relations. This is the most cost-effective way to get your message out. You want to join the chamber. By joining the chamber, you're going to meet other businessmen and women that can use your services. You're going to find the church, the school, the synagogue that have a common need for your product.
Mhm.
And you'll find them at the business breakfasts. Business associations, join those. They're the ones that are going to send you business. And remember, when you're marketing, you got to find two types of customers. You got to have a referral source and an end user.
Mhm.
The referral source is the one that's going to send you the business.
Mhm.
The end user is the one that's actually going to drive the car.
Right.
And you need to satisfy both. If you have to sacrifice one, sacrifice the end user, because you want to keep the referral source sending you business.
Right.
Example, your referral source is a body shop and he sends you a customer. And when you get back with the customer, you find that their driver's license is expired. Well, what do? Most people think, well, I'll just put them back in the car and take them back.
Mhm.
No, you didn't solve the referral source's problem.
Mhm.
So what you want to do is take him to the DMV and get his license renewed, or just simply take him to work,
Mhm.
not back to the referral source. Your website. I sent you a link for the guy that built our website.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've already started on a website or what you want to do. He does one for about $1,500, and
Okay.
it's pretty comprehensive.
Okay.
One thing he does that I don't like is he puts prices on the website. I would prefer to have the customer contact me in an email, and then I'll contact them and give them a price.
Right. And his website can be integrated with the software providers.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they've got all of that. Mistakes to avoid in building a website. I say hire a pro.
Mhm.
The biggest mistake in a website is getting cousin Louie, who knows how to build websites on GoDaddy.
Mhm.
Okay, big mistake. These guys, this is the sample that the guy puts out, and he's got vehicles starting at $29 a day and so on and so forth. You can put in the information on each of the cars, including a price when they go to click on, if you wish to reserve, click here for the price.
Right.
Okay. And one good thing to say is you can get a 4x8 sheet of plywood and have your nephew make a sign for the front of the building.
Right.
Or you can go to a sign company and get something that looks good.
Mhm.
Well, it's the same thing with the website. That's your sign. The basically, you know, the website guys that I'm recommending here, they do probably 500 rental car companies right now.
Mhm.
And rental car companies, boat rental companies, motorhome rental companies, you get the picture.
Mhm.
And they understand SEO, search engine optimization.
Right.
Social media, talk to them about doing your social media. It's a phenomenon that is now growing. We've got several companies that are not doing any advertising. They're doing it all on social media. And they're building, we got one right now, it's up to 60 cars. And it's all on social media.
Mhm.
Here is where your nephew might be able to help you. Okay,
Actually, in my case, it would be my niece.
there you go.
Yep,
So,
two of them.
yeah, and frankly, they are kings and queens on getting customers to like you.
Right.
So they'll show you how to do that. And I'm trying to get somebody to do my social media. Where do you start? You start with a site visit. Notice nobody can shake hands anymore. We have to fist bump.
Right. Yeah.
I shake hands. A site visit should only last about a minute. If they want to know more, they'll stop you and ask questions. You walk up to the desk, hand the person a business card, tell them you have good, clean cars for rent, ask them to consider you next time, and thank them for the time and turn around and walk out.
Mhm.
They'll stop you if they want to ask a question. That's all you need to do for a site visit. And remember, be persistent. You may have to visit them several times before they send you a customer because you are looking for a referral source.
Mhm.
Who should you visit? Don't laugh. Other rental car companies. Other rental car companies have two levels of customers, the referral source and the end user. Your other rental car companies can be a referral source. When they're sold out of cars,
Mhm.
they'll send you customers. Go to any one of the web services and insert your business address and search how many body shops and transmissions and repair garages are in your local area.
Mhm.
Those are your referral sources. The customers they send you are the end users. That's what we talked about earlier.
Right.
And don't forget about the employees.
Mhm.
A lot of people, and David can verify this with what he had, the issues he had at Maui, where nobody was renting to the employees of the hotels. David, what happened when you took a 20 car
Well,
store?
the issue there was everybody wanted the hotel customer. And this was typical of normal businesses. Nobody went to the employees. They all wanted the customer. And I had to build my business in a small store we had on the resort side of the island. So I came up with an idea. We put together a flyer and we sent it to the personnel department of each of the resorts. And we mentioned Dollar Rent-A-Car wants to be your car rental company. And we provide a 10% discount to employees of the Sheraton Maui Resort only.
Mhm.
We did it for the Hyatt Regency Resort. We did it for the Hilton Resort. We got all of them.
Mhm.
We started getting calls right away from employees who were very pleased with the offer and called
Right.
us to rent a car.
Right.
We had one other. There was a business street called Front Street on Maui, where all the tourists go. And I called the corporation back east and had them send me out some handouts. And they sent me a case of yellow plastic handouts that were printed with my phone number on them. So I got a couple of lot attendants, one on each side of the street. They walked up the street and here's what they did. Walk into the business, lay down one of these plastic things, say mahalo, meaning thank you, and walk out. And that's all,
Mhm.
every business. And of course, Main Street was about a quarter mile long. We started getting calls within an hour on that. And here's the funny part of it. The first calls were, your person left this on my counter. Yeah.
Right.
What is it? The corporation had sent me yellow plastic ice scrapers on Maui. Average temperature in the summer, 99. Average temperature in the winter, 97. All right. And we had ice scrapers.
Right.
So we had local people. They started calling the same day. And we built that store from about 14 cars up to about 150
That's
in
a
less
ride.
than less than 6 months.
That's great.
Those local people were using those ice scrapers to scrape wallpaper,
Right.
to dig weeds. All right. They were finding all kinds of uses for an ice scraper. And of course, none to scrape ice. And it worked. Those two items, going for employees of hotels and the businesses, understanding every business might have 5, 6, 7 employees, that built that store. And I didn't have to do anything else. All right. A little story from that, we picked up the account for the Bank of Hawaii, which had a big presence on Maui, but it was based in Honolulu. And so one of the people that we left this thing to gave it to an exec at the Bank of Hawaii. And I met with him, and we got the account. So any Bank of Hawaii people that were flying around the state went to Dollar Rent-A-Car.
Yeah.
You never know from a
Right.
simple thing like that. And like I said, that's all I had to do.
Right. Very good.
All right, Jim, I'm sorry. I
No, that's,
go on and on because it's so simple.
those
just
are
have to
things that
do it.
we don't pay attention to often enough.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to go on. We're going to look at body shops, insurance adjusters, new and used car dealerships, service writers, hotels, motels. Visit the front desk manager.
Yep.
Don't rule out taxi and limo companies, towing companies and drivers, other car rental companies,
Right.
churches, colleges, high school coaches. The list goes on and is only hindered by your imagination.
Right.
This is marketing in its purest form.
Right.
Go out and shake hands and pass out business cards. Tell the people in your neighborhood that you rent cars and ask for their business. When you buy something, hand the cashier your card. The possibilities are endless and can be very productive.
Mhm.
You can do a large part by marketing through your Chamber of Commerce, and we talked about that.
Right.
We have just completed day 3.
Fantastic.
On day 4, how are we doing so far?
doing great.
We're coming along.
We're doing great.
So I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to stop the recording.